Research shows that over 80% of people abandon their New Year's resolutions by February. Staggering, isn't it? And I would say that one of the reasons for that has to do with motivation. At the beginning of the year, you're full of dreams and hopes for the year to come. So it's natural to feel more motivated to do those things you have been putting off, like learning English or becoming fluent in English, for example. But then, before you know it, February arrives and you still haven't done that thing you promised yourself you would do. And then you get frustrated and you think to yourself, you know what? What's the point? I better just leave it for next year. Sound familiar? So, in today's episode, I want to talk to you a little bit about motivation. We're going to cover some things here today. For example, we're going to talk a little bit about why motivation is crucial for successful English learning. Also, we're going to discuss how you should view motivation. And finally, I'm going to give you some tips that will help you feel motivated again. And I would say, most importantly, stay motivated in your English learning journey. Are you ready? So let's get started. Hey there, how's it going? Thiago here, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. In case you're new here, this podcast is intended to help intermediate and advanced learners of English communicate with more confidence, more accuracy, more clarity, and more awareness. So, if this sounds like something you want for yourself and your English, subscribe to the channel here on YouTube and follow the show if you are on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. That way, you won't miss a single new episode. Actually, the inspiration for today's topic came from a comment here on the channel, a comment by Carlos. So let me read the comment to you first, and then we start talking about motivation. So here it is. Carlos says, "Hi, Thiago. The last year I found your channel and I couldn't stop listening to you since then. I realized that I can reach an official English level and I started to prepare by myself for an official Cambridge exam. The first month I was super motivated and I followed an official book preparation with recordings and so on. But a few months later, I stopped because of lack of motivation. Would you mind giving us some advice or recommendation during this process? Thank you a lot." Carlos, thank you for the comment. And actually, your comment served as inspiration for this topic today. You know, we are still at the beginning of the year. It's February as I record this. So it's important for us to discuss a little bit about motivation and how to stay motivated in your English learning journey. First of all, why is motivation crucial for successful English learning? Well, because becoming fluent in English is a midterm to long-term process. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in a few months. So without motivation, it's going to be really hard for you to reach that goal. And likely, I would say, you will give up along the way. You might start this process, this learning journey of yours, super motivated. But then, like I said at the beginning, the intro, life tends to happen. Things happen. And then if you don't have a very strong motivation to anchor you, you will likely give up. And it will be easier, let's say, for life to happen to you. Yeah, things start to happen. And then before you know it, your English studies, your English practice is thrown to the sidelines. All right? But let's talk a little bit about how you should view motivation. Remember that motivation is the energy or drive that makes you do a task. It's also important to quickly define here intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic motivation. I've already discussed this topic in a previous episode, but to quickly define here, intrinsic motivation usually has to do with motivation that comes from you, from within you. Usually you want to do something because of personal development, personal achievement. You're not gaining anything externally speaking, no rewards, no prizes, but you are doing it for you. And because you enjoy it, because you have fun doing it. So these are aspects of intrinsic motivation, I would say. Extrinsic motivation, on the other hand, has to do more with external incentives or rewards. You do something not because you really want to do it or because you love doing that, but because you want a reward, you want a pay raise, a promotion, you want more status. You see, usually something that is more external, okay? Both types of motivation can be effective depending on what you're trying to achieve and what task you are tackling. But I would say that intrinsic motivation is more powerful than extrinsic motivation. And ultimately, you should want to develop more of an intrinsic motivation to do the things you have to do, even if at first you don't have that motivation yet, which is totally fine. Okay? Let me give you a couple of personal examples here. First of all, playing guitar. As you guys know, I play guitar. And to me, the motivation behind me playing the guitar, grabbing the instrument regularly, studying it, learning more about it, learning new songs, new theory. The reason why I do this is more intrinsic. I do it for me. I'm not gaining anything externally speaking for playing the guitar. I'm not making money doing it. I'm not getting more status or anything like that. So I do it for myself because I like music. I like playing. It makes me feel good. So you see, this is something that looks more intrinsic. All right. On the other hand, let's take saving and investing money every month. To me, that looks a little bit more extrinsic. It's not something that I really want to do every month with my money, but I understand the importance of saving part of what I make and investing it for the future. Why? Mainly because of extrinsic motivators. I want to have better retirement years in the future, more freedom in the future, be able to work with the things and the people I like and I want. And with money, I get to say no to opportunities or to working with people that I just don't want to work with. You see, so all of these to me, they look more extrinsic as motivations. You see? So that's pretty much what drives this act, this task of saving money and investing money every month. You see the difference here between something that is more intrinsic versus extrinsic in terms of motivation? Both work, but it depends on the task you want to achieve or complete. Now, it's important that you also remember that showing up consistently, in other words, doing the work, is better than depending on motivation or inspiration to strike. If you just depend on motivation or inspiration to do something, it's going to be really hard for you to do that consistently over a long period of time. That actually reminds me of a quote by Stephen King, the American author. And on his book on writing, he talks about the craft of writing. He gives aspiring writers some tips. Like, if you want to become a professional writer, a professional novelist, what should you do? And then one of the quotes from this book says, amateurs sit and wait for inspiration. The rest of us just get up and go to work. Nice, right? Let me read that again. Amateurs sit and wait for inspiration. The rest of us just get up and go to work. You see? Because, in the book, he talks about the importance of writing every day. So he has this habit of every morning writing a certain number of pages or words per day. He doesn't depend on motivation or inspiration to do that. It's a habit for him. He does that day in and day out. But then he says that the more you do it, the more you engage in the work, the more likely you will feel inspired and motivated from time to time. The inspiration, the motivation will inevitably come, but it's not the thing that you depend on to actually do what you have to do. You see the point here? Another quote, which is related to that, is by Mark Manson. He says, motivation is not just a feeling, it's a habit. You see? So remember this, all right? If you feel lazy to study English, to practice your English, like Carlos at the beginning, preparing for a Cambridge exam, just do the work. Just show up consistently, even if you don't feel inspired, even if you don't feel motivated. But if you do that consistently, you will start to feel that motivation, that inspiration as you progress, as you engage in that activity. All right? But don't depend on motivation alone or inspiration to get something done. It's going to be very hard to get things done that way. So now let me give you some tips here to help you feel motivated again. And most importantly, stay motivated in your English learning journey. So I actually got here three main lessons or three main points that I heard from three different guys. Okay, so the first point here is by Andrew Huberman from Huberman Lab. I was watching one of his interviews, and then in this clip, he was talking about getting used to overriding limbic friction. So, first of all, let's talk about the limbic system, right? So, your limbic system has many roles. The limbic system is a part of your brain. It makes up your limbic brain, let's say. Okay, so that part of the brain or your limbic system is primarily responsible for processing and regulating emotion and memory, while also dealing with sexual stimulation and learning. Behavior, motivation, long-term memory, and our sense of smell also relate to the limbic system and its sphere of influence. So our limbic system is responsible for our motivation, emotions, long-term memory, learning, behavior. All right. And then Huberman talks about overriding limbic friction. In other words, people who are very good at getting things done. Some people are like that. It seems like everything they say they do or they will do, they get it done. Why? Because usually these kinds of people who achieve many things, who are overachievers, I would say, they have become very good at doing this, at overriding limbic friction. By the way, to override something, let me read the definition for you. It means to operate an automatic machine by hand, to take control over something, especially in order to change how it operates. Let's say that our tendency, in our limbic system, is to always feel comfortable. We want to feel comfortable. We want to avoid discomfort and pain. So imagine you have to get up early in the morning to go to the gym. You know that little voice we hear when the alarm rings at 6 a.m., for example? You think to yourself in your head, oh man, I'm tired today. I'm lazy. I worked so much this week. I'm not going to go to the gym. I want to stay in bed. That little voice is, let's say, the default operation of your limbic system. Yeah. But you need to override that. You need to change that. So ignore that voice and just get up and go do the thing. In this case, go to the gym. You see, so if you are able to resist that voice, get up and go to the gym, you have overridden your limbic system at that moment. You see, so people who get things done are good at this. They have gotten used to doing this over and over and over. It's not like they are inspired all the time or they are motivated all the time. For sure, there are many days when they feel lazy. They don't want to do anything, but they override that voice, that way of thinking, and they just focus on doing the thing and they do it. Okay. Huberman also talks about delayed gratification, right? Because when you do that, in a way, you are engaging in delayed gratification. You are sacrificing something pleasant now in order to get something even better, hopefully, in the future. So, for example, about the gym and waking up early, right? You are sacrificing the pleasure of staying in bed now for better health in the future, a better looking body, more self-esteem, all these nice things. Okay? So he says that delayed gratification increases dopamine because you start anticipating the win. He also says that we usually experience dopamine not when we have the win per se, but when we feel we're on the verge of getting that win. So I do believe that when you achieve a goal, you get a hit of dopamine for sure. But that's not the only time we experience that. According to the clip here, and it makes sense actually if you think about it, we also get dopamine hits, let's say, when we are on the track to achieving a goal. So imagine you have the goal of becoming fluent in English. You don't have to be a fluent speaker of English now to start enjoying the process and having that dopamine hit, that pleasure that you feel. As long as you are on the right track. You are studying, you are practicing, reading something, watching something, taking your classes. You see? It's the anticipation of the win. All right. Another clip that I watched when I was researching for this topic today is from another podcast by a guy called Jocko Willink. He also has a podcast, and I believe he's a former Navy SEAL, former military man, and he talks a lot about leadership, that kind of stuff. And in this clip I saw from him, he says something really interesting. He says this: "You can't just turn on the desire to execute a task." Okay. To motivate is to give it a motive, a reason, a why. You see, so that's another tip I can give you. Think of a strong reason. Come up with a strong reason why you are learning English, why you want to become fluent in English, why you are taking classes once a week or twice a week, why you are watching me here week in, week out. I mean, come up with a strong enough reason. All right. Motivation comes from within. Remind yourself why you're doing something. So, especially when you engage in something like this, like learning English, which is midterm to long term, um, it's important to check in with yourself from time to time and remind yourself why you started doing it in the first place. All right. So, have a reason. And then Jocko says something really cool. I really like this line here. He says, "Victory is forged into the heat of the battle." Victory is forged into the heat of the battle. In other words, the way to get something done, the way to achieve things is by actually doing them, by being in the heat of the battle, let's say, in the middle of the battle, right? It's by doing that thing day in, day out, week in, week out. If it is becoming fluent in English, it's about practicing your English day in, day out, week in, week out, taking your classes, studying, reading, and being patient, of course, because it takes time. You see, so victory is forged into the heat of the battle. You got to be doing the thing. You got to have skin in the game, as we also say in the investing world. Yeah, have skin in the game. All right. And another point here that I compiled about motivation is from Robert Greene. Robert Greene is a famous author. He has written many books, but perhaps his most famous and popular book is The 48 Laws of Power. Awesome book, by the way. So in this clip, he says that you have to find something to be excited about. Because when you are excited about something, you learn it at a very high rate. When you're not excited about something, it takes much longer for you to learn it. And then he says that love, excitement, and energy are all part of motivation. So let's say that the ideal scenario is one in which you love the task you're doing. So when it comes to learning English, becoming a fluent speaker of English, ideally, the ideal scenario is you should come to a point where you love doing it. You have fun. You enjoy yourself studying English, learning English, speaking English. That's the ideal scenario. All right. Focus on making it fun for yourself, making it enjoyable. Learning should be enjoyable for the most part. It's not always possible to make it enjoyable. There are certain boring things we have to do to learn something, but for the most part, try to make the whole experience as enjoyable as possible. All right. Also, don't focus so much on the outcome, on the goal, but focus on enjoying the pursuit of the outcome. You see, so don't focus on being fluent in English, but enjoy the process that you are in right now, getting there. All right. But of course, I also understand that we have to do certain things in life that are important, but that we just find plain boring. That's just the reality. Some things we have to do in life are just plain boring. So, for those types of things, I find that extrinsic motivators can help and be useful. especially at the beginning, ideally at the beginning. So, for example, I've already talked to you guys about learning to play guitar, right? And how, for me, it's something very intrinsic. I do it for myself. I have no external reason why I play guitar, why I learn about it. Okay? But let me give you another personal example here going to the gym. I have been going to the gym now for a few months, but I got to be honest with you guys. Going to the gym for me at this stage is still not something that I enjoy doing, that I love doing. It's not. To be very honest with you, it's not. All right. So, knowing that I have very little intrinsic motivation to work out and go to the gym, I have been relying more in the moment on making it more extrinsic, on coming up with extrinsic motivators to do that. So, one thing that I've done with the gym was I made it non negotiable. So, think about that. If you struggle to do something that you have to do, but you find it boring or you don't want to do it, make it non negotiable. Like the gym. Once I made it non negotiable, it became much easier to do it. You see? I also blocked out time in advance for the gym. So I usually use Google Calendar to plan my week. So usually on Sundays, I already plan and I block the days and the times I want to go to the gym that week. All right. So that helps a lot as well. You plan in advance, you block out time in advance for that task that you have to do. And then during the week, especially when I'm working out, I try to eat more clean, more moderately. I don't follow any specific diet, but I try to be mindful of what I consume. But then, usually on the weekend, I allow myself to indulge a little bit and have something more delicious. Maybe have a burger or a pizza or maybe a sweet of some sort. Yeah. So these days that I have to indulge myself also serve as motivators to keep working out and keep going to the gym. You see? Um, and to be honest with you guys, I trust that with time, by doing this week in and week out, eventually I will develop the intrinsic motivation to start going to the gym. Right now, that's not the case. For me right now, going to the gym has been something very pragmatic, very focused, and very intentional and heavily relied on extrinsic motivators for now. All right. But I trust that if I keep doing it, eventually I will start to develop more of this intrinsic motivation. And then I'm going to start wanting to go to the gym for me, just for me, not necessarily because of something external. Now, when it comes to English learning, maybe you like and enjoy certain aspects of learning English, but you don't like others. Maybe you're not a big fan of writing. Maybe you'll find reading a book in English boring. But these things are also important for you to do. So for those things that you find particularly boring, try these, make it non-negotiable. Like you got to do it. Block out time in advance for those tasks. Give yourself a break from time to time and do something fun. Yeah. In between those tasks, those activities, something like little rewards. It could be, give yourself little rewards. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to read a page of a book here in English. I find it really boring, but I'm going to do it. And then after I do it, I'm going to go to my favorite coffee shop for a nice espresso, for example. You see, you give yourself a little treat, a little reward for doing that thing that you didn't want to do in the first place. You see, this is more extrinsic motivation at play here. And then trust that with time, the more you do it, the higher your chances of starting to feel more motivated naturally to do it. Maybe when you start reading a book in English at first, it feels like it drags. The whole experience is boring. You barely get through a page. But if you keep doing it, you might get to a point where you start to enjoy. You start to enjoy the reading process. And then when you finish the first book, you already pick up the second book, and then you start the second book. When you finish that, you get the third book, and so on. You see? Many times, guys, just starting is the hardest part Just start. Just do the work, even if you don't feel it or if you don't feel like it. Yeah, starting is usually the hardest. All right. So here are some final words for me to give you about this topic. Actually, it's a quote by Homer Rice, and the quote says, "You can motivate by fear, and you can motivate by reward, but both those methods are only temporary. The only lasting thing is self motivation." You see, so it's okay to use extrinsic motivators to get some things done, especially if you find them boring. But eventually, you want to work yourself up to having this self motivation to do things, not just the things that you enjoy doing, but even the things that you have to do that you don't particularly enjoy. But now I want to ask you, what motivates you to learn English? Share your thoughts here in the comment section below. I'm curious to see what your motivation is for learning English. All right. And now to wrap up this episode, I have here an email from a viewer named Fernando Cipriano. All right. And I really liked his email, guys, because he actually shared with me a little book that he wrote in English. Yeah, that's right. So let me first read the email to you, and then we read the book. All right. It's a short book. So Fernando says, "Hello, teacher Thiago. This is Fernando, an English student. I've been studying English for 4 years, if I'm not mistaken. Being sincere, I feel like I'm stuck in the intermediate plateau, even though I keep studying every single day without stopping. So I decided to write a little book bringing up one of the most discussed topics of the moment to practice my English. I took an online course and I still keep in touch with my teacher. After writing this book, I showed it to him to give feedback and correct grammar mistakes. As I consume your content on YouTube, I also decided to share it with you, a person who has taught me a lot. It's a simple book, but it was a challenge for me to write it, especially because I tried to rhyme some sentences. Take a look if you have some free time. P.S. It definitely won't be a bestseller, but I could practice my English to the fullest. Thanks for your time. See you on your YouTube channel." Okay, so thanks, Fernando. Let's see here what the book is about. Let me share with you guys here the screen, and then let's see what Fernando wrote. All right? Something is odd. I barely wake up. I pick up my phone. Every morning when I open my eyes, I can't see anything but my screen. That's my routine. I go to the bathroom. I wash my face. Now I'm in the kitchen. How did I get to this place? Okay. I was checking my phone and I realized I was late. Have I had breakfast yet? If so, how did it taste? At work, it's no different. I check my phone over and over again. While my boss doesn't see, I work in my own way. It's time to go home. Finally, I'm free. I'm checking my social media. Please don't talk to me. I get in the house. Someone asks me, "What's the weather like?" Without raising my head, I answer that I haven't seen my friend Mike. Now I'm having dinner and checking my phone again. It's normal. I do this every day. My mom asked me if the dinner tastes good. I didn't even notice the taste, but I answer, it's okay. Is it already late? I need to check the time. I can't even remember if I've already showered by this time. Another day passed quickly, so quickly that I can't believe. As long as I have my cell phone, there's no time to grieve. Nice. We're becoming distant. It wasn't supposed to be like this. We have spent so much time on screens that we can't see what's happening around us. The sun shining, the flowers blooming, the birds singing, the wind blowing. When was the last time you noticed that? Pay more attention to the people around you than to those online. Talk more, hug more, listen more, interact more. Live more in the real world with real people. Look less at the screen and more into someone's eyes. Live real life. Very nice, Fernando. Awesome. And you wrote that? Great job. I really enjoyed reading it, and it has a very nice message at the end, right? We should all be mindful of that, right? How much time have we been spending on our phones, and on social media, for example? Very, very cool. Really nice. Congratulations. And I would encourage you to keep doing this. If you enjoy doing that kind of stuff, if you enjoy writing, keep writing. Who knows? In the future, you might become a published writer and a published author. All right. So I can see here some talent that you have for this. Don't waste it. Keep doing that. All right. Guys, if you want to do it just like Fernando, you can send me an email sharing whatever you want to be featured here on the channel. You can send me an email at hello.teacherthiago@gmail.com, or you can also send me an audio message by going to speakpipe.com/English with Thiago. I hope you enjoyed this topic today about motivation. I hope that some of these ideas here made you think a little bit about how you can be more motivated and how you should view motivation actually. I'm curious to see your comments here under the video about this topic. Don't forget to check out my pronunciation course. This course teaches you the main sounds of the English language, the main connected speech patterns that you hear native speakers using in media. So that can help you speak better and also better understand fast English. And look into my private community as well. Make sure you join because you get to interact with other members, join live calls, access exclusive content, and much more. All right. All the links are here in the description of the video, in the pinned comment below, in the show notes if you are on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video. That helps me a lot here. The more you interact with the video, the better for YouTube to understand that, hey, this video is nice, this content is nice, let's spread it. Let's recommend it to more people. And of course, share this video with a friend who hasn't seen it yet. All right. I'm Thiago. I'm signing off. Thank you so much for your attention today, and I'll be talking to you very soon in the upcoming episode. Bye-bye.